Imagination's taking off again, dreaming bigger than I've ever known. Dreams so big I don't know where to begin. Wrap my brain around you, I start over again. The top is just a new place to begin. There's always a new mountain to climb. Your possibilities blow my mind. More than I know, more than I feel. Deeper than oceans and wider than space. Your love runs deep, your love runs wide, breaking me open from deep inside. I wanna describe you, but there are no words. I wanna say thank you, but words just seem absurd. For all that you've given, for all that you are. And I feel so blessed. More than I know, more than I feel. Deeper than oceans and wider than space. Your love runs deep, your power is great, your amazing grace. More than I know, more than I feel, deeper than oceans, wider than space. Your love runs deep, your power is great, your peace will create compassion and courage, arms open wide, loving each other from every side. More than I know, more than I feel, deeper than oceans and wider than space. Beyond what I know is calling me home into your embrace.
Thank you so much, Christina. That was beautiful. And hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Kunimoto. I am the Vice Chairman and MC here at Unity of Tacoma. We are an online church with a physical presence. I want to thank you all for joining us this Sunday. I have some few announcements before we get into the introductions of our guest speaker musician. We have decided, our board of trustees have decided that we will be online for the month of July as well. And our website has opened up 2 new tabs called Prayer Wisdom, which is a monthly article on prayer and affirmations written by one of our chaplains, Deborah Burks. And our art gallery on our website has also opened up. All of the art pieces that Unity of Tacoma has done as a community is posted on there. And as an act to kind of engage people and bring us together even more so, if you have any art that you do, whether poetry or painting, that ties to spirit or unity, you can write a little blurb about that and send it to info@unity.org. And we can post it on our art gallery so that everyone else can see it and just come together more so as a community. Now, introducing our guest speaker is Deborah Olive, who has served Unity of Tacoma in the past for 10 years. And her theme today is Courage for the Journey of Unreal to Real. So I'm definitely excited for that. And our musical guest is Christine Ess Young, who is an amazing singer and pianist. She was playing when I first came to Unity, and I just fell in love with her music. So it's a pleasure having you both here. And yeah, so Deborah, if you could lead us into this morning's prayer, that would be amazing.
Beautiful. Well, once again, it is my pleasure to be here with you. And I'm so excited about the announcements that you have about art. And I'm remembering years and years ago when we did the Artist's Way, and so many people in the community started showing up at Unity of Tacoma, and the art, the art, the art. So it's a beautiful, beautiful legacy that certainly preceded my presence with you, but it warms my heart. And let us take this moment to move into prayer. One of the oldest prayers known to humanity is a Hindu prayer Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from the fear of death to the knowledge of our immortality. And so I invite you to close your eyes. And the purpose of closing our eyes is to attune with the presence of God and to bring our attention to that which is real, to bring our attention to the love, the beauty, the joy, the wisdom, the health, the abundance, the truth that is God. And to bring our attention to the truth of our being, that we are within God as a wave in the ocean, that all of that truth and love and joy and peace dwells within us and all around us. And so every moment of every day, all we need to do is tune in to the voice of Spirit. This is that time of tuning in, of coming together as one people, one heart, one mind, in spirit. And so I invite you to feel the love that is in your heart, to let that spill over in this virtual sanctuary, to feel the connection that we have with one another, and to bring our positive expectancy to the dreams that Spirit has for us, through us, and together, and to bless this service, the words, the meditation, the thoughts, the prayers, the music, and all of us together, to bless this time in spirit for the highest and best, and so it is. Amen.
Take only what you need and leave the rest behind. Surrender your burdens, put them out of mind. Gather all your courage, gather what you've learned. Continue on your journey with an open heart, taking only what you need. Take only what you need and leave the rest behind. Surrender your burdens, put them out of mind. Gather all your courage, gather what you've learned. Continue on your journey with an open heart. What isn't working, lay it down. Just walk away and let it be. Whatever holds you back, let it go, and you'll be free. The struggle is real, but it doesn't have to last. Just let it all go, pull yourself together, taking only what you need and leave the rest behind. Surrender your burdens, put them out of mind. Gather all your courage, gather what you've learned. Continue on your journey with an open heart. Continue on your journey with an open mind. Continue on your journey taking only what you need, taking only what you need.
How are you this morning? You know, I wish we were in person where we could truly interact and ask that question and listen deeply to one another, to have a real conversation. And in today's world, that is so hugely important. And when we come together, people of like mind, people who, wherever we are on our journey of spirituality, on our journey of embracing this thing we call unity or new thought, or our experience with God, with good, with all things working together for good. And yet the question, how are you, can so often be answered with surface level stuff. Well, I'm doing good, you know? Yeah, I had a few rough spots, but, you know, all is well, you know? And what that does is it can keep us from going underneath the surface. And friends, if this is a time for anything, it's a time of going under the surface. In Unity, we talk about looking beyond appearances. Now is the time. And so how are you? And how have the events in your life shifted how you see yourself in the future? You know, how has it shifted your aspirations? Has it shifted your aspirations? What's on your heart? How are you responding differently than what you have in the past? So this is a time of reflection. It's a time of inner awareness. And for many of us, I remember someone asked me, you know, you hop on the phone with somebody or you hop on Zoom with somebody, and right away it's, well, how are you? And my response was, well, it depends on when you ask. Right now, everything is looking pretty good. I'm delighted to be here with you. I am having a fabulous conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing how things are going. And, you know, and then we start looking at the challenges that we've had to face. So let this be a time of opening to something deep inside of you. You see, we really are on this journey from the unreal to the real. What does that mean? You know, when we look at the things that are going on outside of us, in the Course in Miracles, it says, what I see doesn't mean anything. Oh my gosh. The first time I heard that, it was so confrontive. What do you mean it doesn't mean anything? There we are. What do you mean it doesn't mean anything? And yet what it's doing is challenging us to be aware of our experience and understand that there's something deeper underneath. Well, before we get into that too much, I'd like to share some of the observations that I've made. You know, Facebook is a wonderful thing in some ways, and it's given Unity ministers an opportunity to connect and to talk about all the things, the changes that are going on in our ministries, connecting remotely, thinking about when do we get back together in person, wrestling with our teachings, the way that we have taught truth, and what it is that we're experiencing in today's world. And so by being part of these conversations, you know, what's happening is Unity ministers are also saying, I'm tired. Some days I don't want to get up out of bed. I don't want to deal with this. So there's a lot of people on the front line, and we want to acknowledge our nurses and our doctors, all the people that are making sure that the supply chain is available, people in grocery stores, everybody. Our ministers are on the front line. You are on the front line of your life, where things are changing really, really rapidly. We're on the front line of our life. And so while our teachings are powerful and they support us in showing up with a smile, in being able to put things down, like Christina's song said this morning, whatever is there, to be willing to put it down and pick up and move on. And nevertheless, we have these ups and downs. So how are you today? And I'm speaking to the human part of you. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We need to acknowledge our human experience. And if we don't acknowledge it, it will run us. So I want to share a story with you. This is a story about a teenage girl. Her name is Phoebe. And in early April, during the very beginning of the quarantine, she had a number of explosive outbursts, like only a teenager can, right? Just angry and stomping and making a big deal out of everything and not being understood. And her parents were like the worst parents in the world. And the virus had come just to make her experience horrible. And you get the idea. So Phoebe is really, really upset. Well, after a while, several days, actually a couple of weeks, her parents decided it was finally time to put the kettle on the stove, boil some water, have some chamomile tea, and sit down and have the whole family together to listen. And friends, that's what we need right now. We need to listen to one another. And so as they listened to Phoebe, what they heard was that there were some things that they could take care of and other things that they couldn't. And one of the things that was so important to Phoebe was her connection with her friends, to be able to process what was going on in her life and to just hang out and to just, do what teens do. And her parents thought, how can we accommodate this? How can we be creative and follow best practices, for health and well-being? And what they came up with was that her best friend would quarantine and make sure that, all of the health practices were being taken care of, as would she, and that they would create their own bubble and that the two would be able to hang out. And so that's what they created so that they could accommodate that for Phoebe. And so the creative part, God is good all the time. If we can get underneath the surface. Once her parents found out what was going on with Phoebe and could really listen and understand, then they could do something that would support her. Where is it that you are Phoebe? We're all Phoebe. Where is it that we need to listen? Where is it that we need to be heard at the depths of what's going on? Where is it that inside of us we want to throw a temper tantrum? I know, truth students, we shouldn't be doing that. But where is it in you that you're being challenged in ways that you've never been challenged before? Even our truth teachings, all things work together for good. This is true. And yet there are times, aren't there, where we're looking at what's going on in the world around us or in our backyard, or trying to figure out how to get through the day with a sense of peace and calm. And we wonder, how is it that God is working for good right now? Well, that's a good question. To behold the divine in all people. We know that's a truth. And yet around us on the outside, we're getting information that would suggest that's not so. What do we do with that? I would suggest that, like her parents did, we listen to that part of us that is not yet understanding at depth. And that's what I'm seeing, not the temper tantrums so much, but that's what I'm seeing among our spiritual leaders. It's like, how can we go deeper with our truth teachings? How can we go deeper? So as human beings, of course, we have a physical body that has one kind of experience. We have an emotional body that has another kind of experience. We have an understanding, an intellect that has another kind of experience. And then there's a spiritual truth. There's also inside of us a voice that would want to argue with those spiritual truths. What is that about? So a big part of our experience as human beings is to go from what's going on the outside to finding that place on the inside where we feel the truth of our being. That God is love, joy, beauty, wisdom all the time, all the time. And so there's that which is deep within us that is that. And how do we go to that deep place? Friends, that is the journey in unity from the personality self of our humanity to the Christ self that is our individuality. This is the journey from the unreal to the real. And it takes a lot of courage. I mean, who wants to sit down and really look in those depths? Who wants to do that? And yet, if we don't, we end up letting the story inside of us run us. And so if you're not doing any tantrums on the outside like Phoebe, congratulations. As we look at our society around us, don't we see tantrums going on all over the place? And how do we reconcile that? In unity, there are some teachings. And I don't know how many of you studied Emily Cady. She was one of the early ones in Unity. She's got a book called Lessons in Truth. And when I first came into Unity, it was like everybody studied Lessons in Truth. Beautiful, deep, rich teachings. It's a cornerstone of the teachings at Unity Village for ministers. And there is a chapter in that book on chemicalization. Chemicalization, it doesn't even make sense in today's world, right? This was written back in the early 1900s, basic, solid unity truth. And it's interesting, chemicalization in its short version. Have you ever put soda into sour milk or another kind of acid fluid and watch the agitation that comes out of that? It's like everything's bubbling all over the place. Chemicalization. That teaching is about old ideas meeting new ideas. It's about what happens when we go from what's not real to something that's more real. It's what happens when there's conflict inside of us between what we believe and what we're seeing on the outside. It's that. And so for all of the different versions of Lessons in Truth that were printed, only 3 included this chapter. It was considered too negative for people. And yet I think that these teachings are critical for our times right now, is that we understand that what happens when one set of beliefs, God is good all the time. Is there any part of you that says, yeah, but? All things work together for good. Is there any part of you that says, yeah, but? It's time to put on the tea and listen. And it takes courage to do that. Because what we're going to find underneath are the beliefs that are there, that some of them came by default, but they are our beliefs. They're our way of thinking the world works. So let's go to something that some of you may remember. There's an old Harry Chapin song, came out, I think, in the 70s, something ridiculous like that. And the song is about a young boy who went to school. And as he was there, they were in art class. There's that art again. They were in art class, and the teacher wanted them to draw flowers. So the boy pulls out his crayons, all the colors of the rainbow, and he starts making his flowers. And the teacher comes by and she looks at him and she says, "Flowers are red, young man, and leaves are green." And so she had him change the colors so that he could comply with what was going on in the classroom. So there's the first time. The second time, it's like another week later and they're drawing flowers again. And he pulls his crayons out, all the colors of the rainbow. And the teacher comes by and says, "No, flowers are red and leaves are green." And so this happens over time. Well, the little boy goes to a new school. And when they pull out their colors to make flowers, he pulls out red for the flowers and green for the leaves. And the new teacher comes by and she looks at him and she says, "Oh, why are you coloring your flowers red? You could use all the colors of the rainbow." And the little boy repeats back to her the words in the song, "Flowers are red, leaves are green. That's the way that flowers are." And so the reason I share that story, that song, is that there are beliefs inside of us that we have because of repetition, and they're just the way it is. Those are the things that are unreal, my friends. Those are the things that are change. Those are the things that are not necessarily so. And so what are those beliefs that are inside that when we bring them up and confront them with a truth, with an affirmation, that it chemicalizes, that there's the old and the new meeting in a way that creates unrest. It creates unrest inside of us. And I am here to say that unrest is a part of God's grace. It's a part of our waking up. It's a part of being on this journey from the unreal to the real, from the place where we can release the meaning that we've given something to come into a place of a higher truth. And it takes chemicalization. It takes that agitation that comes when old ideas meet new ideas. So in unity, the truths that we're teaching have not changed. Those are solid. But our understanding of them are deepening because of what we're seeing around us. And again, it takes courage to see this. So one of the things, and we're all in this together, one of the experiences that I've had personally, as I've looked at what's going on with COVID, what it's like to be, in some semblance of quarantine still. what it's like to begin to come back out, and how we're handling this as a nation. We look around and things have become politicized that are walking on deeper truths. And we have the protests. And we watched George Floyd on a sidewalk as a cop took his life on camera with people watching. And it's not the first time. And it's opening us up as a nation to see who we are and to confront some of the truths that we believed in our country. Friends, in unity, we are all about oneness. We have had people in our lives that are, brown and black and white, the skin, the color of the skin that we're in. And we have looked there and we have loved and opened our heart and our arms. And for those of us in white skin, we thought that was enough to love, to be compassionate, to see another human being just as they are. And yet, what I'm finding is it takes more than that. It takes actually recognizing the different life experience that someone in this country has based on the color of their skin. It takes understanding at a level that has blown me away. In terms of safety, to listen to one another when someone else's experience is different than our own, when someone else's authentic voice has been crushed so that they can fit into a society that has certain beliefs. Friends, we are in a time that takes a great deal of courage. And the thing that, this isn't a talk on Black lives and brown lives and white lives. This is a story that says, oh my goodness, with all that I've given in terms of kindness and compassion and love, it takes more. It takes more than that. It takes really being able to create a safe space and ask someone, not just how are you, but as a Black man in this country, what has been your experience? As an Asian woman in this country, what has been your experience? And to listen outside of the set of beliefs, the red flowers and the green leaves, outside of that, to really embrace the experience of others. And what I saw was that there were many, many, many bits of information that have come into my life over the years. I never connected the dots. And as a unity minister, as a loving human being, I was embarrassed. I felt shame. All of those feelings are real. And this is a part of our journey from the unreal to the real, from recognizing what's going on with our human self as well as our spiritual self. It takes courage. And one of the things that I discovered for myself was seeing the difference in power, the power balance that's in this country. So I'm going to push a pin in that and push pause. So I was in a different conversation in a different room with my new awareness, with my sense of, inadequacy and humility and shame around what I hadn't seen. And I was in another room, and that sense of power was now in a different role. I felt the difference in male and female power. Why? Because I had heightened senses. And in the space of that, I responded in a way I never would have thought I would. It wasn't a big thing. I didn't lash out or any of that, but I had this flash in my eyes, I was like, like wear it on my sleeve. And in doing that, it actually hurt one of the men that was in the room. He felt hurt by that. So I ended up having a conversation to clean that up. What's my point? The point is we're all experiencing our world in new ways, and it's good. It's the chemicalization, it's the old ideas and the new ideas coming together. And it's so important for us to have the courage to step into that. And friends, we are not alone. So part of this is understanding what's going on for us. And, this is the awakening of the spiritual essence of who we are. So anything unlike that is coming to the surface so it can be seen, so it can be healed. And that is the journey from the unreal to the real. There's another movie, The Never-Ending Story. And I don't know if you saw this, it's a typical hero's journey. And so our hero is well into the story and he's coming up on the first obstacle. And that first obstacle is what's called the magic mirror gate. And what happens there is that each person, in order to get through the gate, has to fully look at themselves to see who they really are. And most of the people in this story are connecting with that mirror gate, and they see who they are and they turn around, they run screaming in the other direction. Of course, our hero is able to move through that gate because of his sense of authenticity and who he is and his compassion for himself and his awareness and his sense of connection. That's why he's our hero. And there's a scripture that reminds me of. It's in 1 Corinthians 13. It's the great love chapter. And it speaks to how at first we look in the mirror dimly, and then we see face to face. And that is the journey we're on, from the unreal to the real. And so whether it's Phoebe, the teenager, having her episode, or whether it's us looking at any of the kinds of things that are going on in the news right now, how can we bring our whole self to that in a way that we have compassion, that we have a deeper understanding, and that we can take these beautiful, beautiful truths that we know, God's love, God's joy, God's fullness, and to bring that deeper into our hearts, no matter what we see, and to know that we are never alone, whether there's a human being to listen to us or not, that Spirit is here with us, that there are grace notes, that there's understandings that come. And so we set aside our own sense of our self-image enough that we can come into new understandings, like our boy in the Harry Chapin song, like myself as a woman in white skin who's learning more about the history of our nation, the experience of people with skin a different color, and ways to reach out. And so we're all in this together. And it's a trail that we've seen in many ways. We are awakening. I want to close with a piece, and I'm going to read it because I haven't memorized it. This is by a man named Christopher Fry. The human heart can go the lengths of God. Dark and cold we may be, but this is no winter now. The frozen misery of centuries breaks, cracks, begins to move. The thunder is the thunder of the flows, the thaw, the flood, the upstart spring. Thank God our time is now, when wrong comes up to face us everywhere, never to leave us till we take the longest stride of soul men ever took. Affairs are now soul size. The enterprise is exploration into God. Where are you making for? It takes so many thousand years to wake, but will you wake for pity's sake? And of course, our answer is yes.
Faith can light the path. Faith can heal the darkest hour. Faith can breathe life into a broken heart. Lean into the arms of the everlasting life. My soul is made whole. So hold on. Open up, drink it in. So hold on. Breathe it in, have faith. Faith can light the path. Faith can heal the darkest hour. Faith can breathe life into a broken heart. Let the peace wash over me. Let the arms of love enfold me. My soul is made whole. So hold on. Open up, drink it in. So hold on. Breathe it in, have faith. So hold on. Open up, drink it in. So hold on. Breathe it in, have faith. Breathe it in, have faith. Oh, breathe it in, have faith.
Breathe it in, have faith. And so this is our time of opening beyond the power of our thinking self, moving past what words can say. And as you take a breath, I invite you to consciously invite your heart to be filled with the love of God and to feel the warmth and the joy and the peace and the love of God. And let that expand to fill your body. So that energy emanating from your heart and filling your body with love. And taking in another breath. And allowing that love to move beyond your body. To fill the space in the room where you are. And as you have the experience of love moving through you, notice your mind And let go of the thinking part of your mind, but simply be the witness to experience the love that you are. And then allow that love to move beyond the room that you're in, to fill the space around you. And to realize that this love is everywhere present. And with the next breath, allowing yourself to feel connected with all that is. And letting spirit move through you. Wherever there are places where there's agitation, to let the love bubble that to the surface, where it can be seen, where it can be felt, and where it can simply drift away. Love's healing power. And allowing yourself to connect with the truth of all beings, of all people everywhere, all people, no exceptions, to bring them into this field of love that you're aware of, and to realize that they're walking and living and moving and breathing in their own field of love and joy. And that there's a great bubbling up right now, this chemicalization, this dissolving of old beliefs, that there's nothing that you need to do other than to be present and to allow God to do God's work in and through you. We're called to trust the process, this journey from the unreal to the real, from our human personality to the full embrace of our Christ Spirit. It's so much more about letting go and releasing than it is trying to be anything that we're not. Because who you are already is one with the one. Like a wave in the ocean. And as spirit moves through you, allow it to move through your emotional body to release what no longer serves. Allow this love to touch your physical body, to heal every little cell, to know that ultimately you are safe. This is a journey from darkness into light. This is a journey from the fear of death to the understanding of immortality. This is a journey from pushing away to pulling in. And love will do the work. Breathing in and feeling full of the love of God. And realizing you are so much greater than the body you live in or the thoughts that you think. Allowing yourself to be present to the divine and what God will reveal right there where you are, right in the thoughts that you're thinking. God's love moving through you. Uplifting. healing, unfolding. And taking another breath, feeling the peace of the moment, trusting the process, and giving yourself permission to answer the question, how are you? From this human self, with courage and compassion, how are you? And trusting your walk, your journey, into the fullness of your Christed self, of your divine self. And so if there's anything that you need to bring forward, allow your mind to catch that. Guided by Spirit, immersed in love. This is my next step. This is my human truth. And as a spiritual being, I celebrate every step on the journey. And so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.
I've always put up my fences, held my defenses in front of me, not knowing my heart was imprisoned till you gave me wisdom to find the key. I'm ready to begin. I'm open to love coming in when you move through me, when you move through me. You give me the confidence to take back my innocence through me. I've always lived in delusion, trapped in illusion of doubt and fear, not knowing that change would come my way till I drove a highway free and clear from all my regrets. I'm open to what's coming next when you move through me, when you move through me. You give me the confidence to take back my innocence through me. And I am tired of all my excuses, and I close my eyes, and the one thing I know that's true, there's nothing that I can't do. When you move through me, when you move through me, you give me the confidence to take back my innocence. When you move through me, when you move through me, when you move through me, you give me the confidence to take back my innocence. Oh, through me.
Thank you so much, Christine S. and Deborah. Your talk really made me think about what my life was before quarantine. Every waking moment that wasn't spent studying or in my classes, I was just hanging out with friends. And of course, since quarantine happened, I just didn't have that anymore. And I definitely had some moments where I was very much so down. And I still have them now because it's way more of an effort to talk to people. But being away from all the constant distractions, I've been more of a part of Unity than ever, and I'm working on projects that are so much less temporary than spending a day hanging out with friends. And I don't think that I would have gotten to this point without this happening. So I think it's very important to look on the bright side of things because we can't really control it right now. Um, I have some last few announcements before Deborah prays us out. I just want to say that you are supporting Unity of Tacoma when you tell your friends and family where you're spending your Sunday mornings, or tell them about our website, unityoftacoma.org. Your tithes and donation provide us with the ability to provide you with guest musicians and speakers. If you feel called to donate, you can do so on our website using PayPal or Zelle. It's just a few clicks of a button. On our website as well, you can sign up for text SMS updates. You'll get an update sent to you when we are about to do our Sunday sessions, or when an update comes up when we'll be able to see each other in person again. I want to thank you all for joining us this Sunday. And yeah, so Deborah, if you could pray us out, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. And so may we go forth this day with the courage and love in our hearts that lets us see the beauty and the joy and the bright lights all around us, and give us the courage to see the things that we need to see, to be willing to take the next step in our growth to being the full, loving expression of the divine on this earth. So it is.
So it is. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us.